I'll tell you what. I'm gonna. I got to get into this whole documentary stuff. Like I'm dying to talk about it so much. I can't wait to run down this list. Let me just type this out. Let me kind of type and talk, and my brain can't do two things at once. So, so the other night, like we sat down, and we were looking for stuff to watch. I'm like, you know what? Let's put on Netflix and let's really like watch some Netflix stuff. But I keep getting like sucked in by documentaries, and the first thing that actually I watched a week ago, season 2 came out of The Toys That Made Us, and the new season was Star Trek, Transformers, Lego, and Hello Kitty, and again amazing story. And just the stories behind the way things happened and how they blew up into what they were and how they disintegrated to nothing, or how they're still going strong. It's just amazing stories, especially like seeing that. I'll tell you what, the Hello Kitty one was probably maybe the most interesting one, and I'm far from a Hello Kitty fan, but it was just kind of funny how they were trying to break into America for so long and they couldn't get it to work. And then it just finally something clicked and it just exploded. But
I haven't been to the mall in a really long time, but the last time that I went, there was a whole Hello Kitty store.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't realize like the guy who created it, like how many other characters they really have. Like I thought it was kind of just like a Hello Kitty thing. They have so many, like hundreds of other characters they do. It's kind of like Care Bears. Like they have their own universe. Right. Like they just started because Hello Kitty was not working here in America, and they just started designing and making all these different characters and just throwing them against the wall to see what would stick. And just it's just crazy, dude. I mean, really interesting stuff. How this stuff works and happens and all. So I watched those last week with my daughter, and then Saturday night we sat down and we came across this documentary series, and I really didn't even want to go that route, because I didn't want to have to know it, because I like just one-off documentaries. Give me 90 minutes, 2 hours, and I'm good. I didn't want to have to make that commitment to where there was multiple episodes, because then I knew I'd have to try to commit to it.
Right.
So. We came across this one. It's called Too Young to Die, and it's a 10-part series. So I ended up watching 8 episodes. One of them, the one that we skipped was, and I don't know why Jess skipped it. I kept saying, I don't know why you skipped it. She's like, well, we know so much about her already. I'm like, so? We watched all these other ones, and I learned so much. But we skipped Sharon Tate, and another one we skipped was a Russian person who I never heard of. So I had zero interest anyway. But I ended up watching Heath Ledger, John Belushi, Kurt Cobain, Natalie Wood, Philip Seymour Hoffman, River Phoenix, Judy Garland, and Falco. Let's see if you guys remember who Falco even is.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Rock Me Amadeus. You don't remember that song?
No, man. I had cool toys and shit when I was a kid.
They made a fucking song on WCAU. What was it, 98? With 98 FM.
Yeah.
Terry Young.
Terry Young, the Motor Mouth.
Yeah. Fucking every other goddamn song was that fucking thing.
Nick, you had to hear this song. Here we go. This isn't it. They lied to me. Hold on.
Rock me on the day.
Here we go.
It's the German version.
You don't remember that song, Nick?
He did it in German for a long time, and then finally they fucking made it in English.
Yeah, well, here, this was like I kept saying to myself as I'm watching this, I can't believe I'm watching a documentary on Falco, and I was so sucked in, I was so into it. I just couldn't, yeah, I couldn't get enough of it. It was such an interesting story, and now see Nick went on hold. The thing just keeps putting.
Nick was like, "Fuck you."
Nick, you there? There he is.
Yeah, man, I'm here. If you can hear me, dude, yeah.
Do you remember that song?
No, dude, totally. Like, I know of it. I just, like, that song came out in, like, 85, so there were a lot of better songs. Like,
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I think it came out the same year as Money for Nothing. Like, it got buried somewhere in there.
See, I'll take Rock Me Amadeus over Money for Nothing any day. I hate that song.
I know.
I was fine with it. I was fine with it once they came out in English, but when it was in German, it just sucked because you couldn't take a fucking word he said.
Well, he was like, I mean, he's from Germany, and here he was a bass player in this German band, and he ended up writing a song, or like composed a song, like while the singer would take a break on stage, and one night some like music guy came and saw them, and like wanted him. He didn't want the rest of the band. He just wanted him because from that one song, and he became Falco and became this star and was huge. I mean, freaking huge in Germany. Like they showed him playing a concert, dude, to 130,000 people in Germany. Like that might be the whole country.
Dude, no, you not wait. You cannot judge a person's music by them being popular in Germany, aka David Hasselhoff. So
I'm with Jimmy on that.
You cannot judge popularity of music by that. Sorry.
I'll tell you what, this whole like the whole Falco thing had me blown away, and it was such a, again, like, such a talented individual, but such a sad life. He was just a full-blown alcoholic, and
song makes more sense now.
Yeah, well, dude, it was weird. Like they were literally showing in the studio him recording. Like songs like that, and even before that song broke, like he would be so drunk in the studio, they literally would record one line at a time, and then the engineer and the producer and all that, they would go back and piece everything together. They would piece the songs together for him. But that's all they were able to do was get one line out of them at a time. Do you imagine how long that must have taken to record stuff?
That's insane.
The Judy Garland one. Oh my God! Like, never a fan of Judy Garland. You know what I mean? I haven't seen nothing of Judy Garland probably except for The Wizard of Oz. I got so sucked into this documentary. They had, she was recording tapes of her life to do an autobiography, and she never even finished it. She ended up dying. They were playing these tapes. She was like all messed up on pills or booze or both, and she would get on these tirades about people in her life and just start screaming into the recorder. It was just like, oh my God. And then, they show these clips of her singing, and I'm sitting there with tears in my eyes. I'm like, this woman had such a beautiful and amazing voice. Was just so freaking talented. But her life, again, so sad. Like, if you want to feel better about yourself, watch these documentaries on celebrities because I'm telling you, like I watch these and I think to myself, I wanted to be these celebrity people so bad, and I'm like, there's a reason why somebody upstairs really must care and love me to not have me go over the edge to that world, because I would really, like, I suffer from depression enough as is. Like, that would really put me over the edge. All these things. Oh my God.
All right, but
dude, you were on television and couldn't, and there's no way you would be a star. You were on television before and you couldn't stand it.
Maybe if I made money, it would have been a little different.
Hey, you know what? You know what I say? Because nowadays you don't have to be on like regular television to be a star. You know, since YouTube and all these social media platforms with videos and pictures and everything else. Thank God there was none of this crap when I was, you know, out and causing trouble. Fucking videos of this shit.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. Now,
no, but
one.
I want to get back to Judy Garland for a second, though, because I think you're missing something here. Like, Judy Garland was born in 1922. That was a time when everybody had a fucked up life. You know what I mean? Like my lifetime, the Berlin Wall fell and the USSR disbanded. The year that Judy Garland was born is the year that it came into creation. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a whole different aspect right there.
The year Judy Garland was born, the film Nosferatu came out. Think about that. Think about that. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody had a shitty life back then.
You know what too? Like Judy Garland, like they're talking about how like I'm pretty sure it was either Judy Garland or Natalie Wood. I'm pretty sure it was Judy Garland now. As being a child actor and all that, like her mother used to give her speed pills to fill more hours, and then downers so she could go to sleep at night. Like, and she just became a pill addict, all because of Hollywood and her mother like forcing her to do these things. Crazy. And I hear nothing. Did I lose you guys?
Oh, I'm there. I think Bender got lost. But no, I know what you're saying. But the reason they're bringing out her now is because that they're redoing the Star is Born.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so they're kind of redoing that film now, and it's coming out soon. So I think that's probably why, But
the Natalie Wood one. Now this is the one that really disturbed me. I've probably seen a half dozen easy, documentary shows on Natalie Wood over the years, and
could you even imagine what it was like back then? Like, there were no rules or like parental guidelines.
Dude, can you get onto your phone? Well, you're breaking up so bad, and it's killing me.
But he's right back on point. Imagine how bad it was back then.
I don't know which one on. I want to hear what he's saying.
Can you hear me at all?
Yeah.
That sounds a little better, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, dude. I actually have both of them on mute, and you're still hearing me.
She was in that.
You were sounding like you were in a tunnel, but I was hearing you. All right, let me talk about this Natalie Wood one, and hopefully.
Okay.
All right, there you go. So the Natalie Wood one really was the one that really disturbed me the most because it showed her, again, getting into the music business, the movie business at a very young age. And she was 16 years old when she did Rebel Without a Cause, or Rebel with a Cause, James Dean and all. And that was the movie where she really wanted to stop being that little, the little goody two-shoes portrayed in movies. She wanted to become a bad girl. Well, she was sleeping with, while filming the movie, she was sleeping with a director who was like 45 years old, 46 years old. She was sleeping with James Dean, and she's sleeping with Dennis Hopper.
She wasn't sleeping.
She was not sleeping, no. But I was just like, she's 60 years old, and she's screwing like almost 50 years old. I'm like, what the And, like, the people that are talking to in this documentary, they kind of alluded, like, she got around Hollywood. And actually, one person she was tied to at one point that was a major disappointment to her, she thought was very, very boring, was the King, Elvis Presley.
Oh, wow. I bet you the whole time people were telling her, like, this is going to be great for your career.
Yeah, probably. Well, and it was really interesting, too, was the way, like, they were showing how she was, her and Robert Wagner, when they were married the first time, they were showing the comparisons, and I never would have realized until they showed it, but they were of that generation. They were like the Brad and Angelina of that generation, like two huge stars, married, and like they were the talk of all the gossip, papers at the time and everything, and it was just really interesting stuff.
That's really like I can't even imagine what life was like for those actresses back then. Like, imagine like the Me Too thing from now happening back then.
Yeah, right. Heath Ledger. This is the second documentary I saw on Heath Ledger, and both things I came out of both of them just like shaking my head and saying, "What an amazingly talented human being!" Like that dude, like, and I'm not even just talking about with his acting. Just that dude had so much talent that be on the other side of the camera and musically, like, it's really sad that we won't see what he could have brought us. And the one they did on Netflix, a lot of it is done by his father. They interview his father through most of it, and it's just sad. Like how he said, like his wife and sister, they have not spoken about it publicly on camera since his services. It's just too much for them to talk about.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Now, one of the couple other big ones I watched before we get into the David Cassidy one, which I really wanted to talk to Kristen about because she talked about it. I guess this came out, it might be almost 2 years now that she was telling us about it. The one on Glen Campbell.
Okay.
Where he discovers that he's got Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
And then, they're going through the process of him finding out and going through the testing and the doctors. And it's obvious from the opening scene that something's wrong. Like, you just know he's not there. And they then, which I kind of felt like, I don't know, dude, it kind of bothered me. Like, they then, like, he puts this new album out and then goes on. And, they're showing him during rehearsals and, he's getting pissed and angry because he'll forget stuff, or he's telling, like, he's got, like, 3 or 4 of his kids in his band, and it's just a weird whole thing. And at times he just doesn't remember who his kids are. or his wife. It was just a whole, like, you're just waiting for the whole bottom to fall out. And they're like, got this guy driving around the country for a year doing shows, and it was just like you didn't know what was going to happen at all. They showed him on it might have been the Tonight Show. I forget, one of the late nights, and how they were showing him during rehearsals, and they said they had like the light on the floor with like a giant bullseye. Like, you have to stand here. You can't leave this circle. And they didn't know what he was going to do. They're just like shitting themselves. They didn't know if he was going to walk off. And he was kind of fucking with them too. Like, during rehearsals, he would walk off and like walk to the other side of the stage and just fuck with them and shit. But it was just a really sad thing as you're seeing this disease just cripple this guy mentally. But I mean, it was kind of weird. Like, forgetting people in his everyday life and stuff like that, forgetting where he was or what he did. But I'll say a good 80%, 85% of the time when he got on that stage, he was up there, and live performance, he was spot on, and they said because that was just so much of his life was music. That's going to be the last thing that's going to go for him. And remembering to play guitar, it was just amazing story, but so just like, oh my Lord, like such a sad thing to watch and witness, especially like I felt so bad for his kids, like during this whole thing. I mean, they're showing them, and especially his daughter who's in his band, and they're showing arguments with him and his daughter, like at one point, and then a couple minutes later, like he like didn't even remember talking to her 2 minutes ago. It was just so like rough to watch. I even sent you Nick a message. I'm like, dude, you have to see this. I'm like, like I was kind of like taken back, like that they would allow something like this. But like I get it. Like it is eye opening and brings awareness for people who didn't have or have not seen Alzheimer's, firsthand. It was just wow.
That's pretty crazy, man. I don't know that I would watch it. But it is. You know what I mean? That's sad as hell. Like,
dude, it really, really was. And so then the viewing just doesn't stop. Like, then I end up watching the last thing I went watched too on Netflix was David Letterman now has an interview show on there, and it was the new episode with Howard Stern. So I had to watch that, which that was okay. It was just the same stuff kind of rehashed over and over. But then the other night I ended up watching finally the Andre the Giant documentary, which I was been dying to see. I think, Janetti, you said you saw that? We were talking yesterday. Did you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Again.
It was good. The one they did on HBO, right? Original.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good. I had seen a bunch of stuff on him over the years. I think this one was well put together compared to them, but.
Now,
yeah.
Are you one to? Are you one to watch these things and cry at any point?
No, not really.
No.
Usually, I don't watch a lot of them. I watch some, somebody, Andre or something like that. But I'm not much on the sadness of that of those people's lives, I think.
At any point, did it get you misty-eyed watching the Andre the Giant one?
No. I was never a huge Andre fan when he was in there. And most of the stories, I've heard a lot of stories, the bad stories about him too. That's part of, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, it's great to see the documentary and all. Some people were, had some things to say, but a lot of the guys that he was working with and would really, be able to say stuff, they're gone.
Yeah.
The dog's saying hello.
Hello.
Yeah. But other, so, good and bad. I don't think I got misty-eyed. It was nice, though. I mean, it was good,
Yeah, it was. I'd say, like, naturally, like, when he finally passed away, it got me misty-eyed. But on the part where they were talking about, like, how it was tough for him to travel and, be on planes and stuff like that, and they were talking about how people would make fun of him in airports and all. That upset me so much. That part, and when he passed away, or the two that got me misty-eyed. I was just like, wow, like I just couldn't get over how, like, they were saying he was treated by people in airports and stuff, like just how rude they were. I was just, wow, like, I don't know. It just shows you the ugliness of people.
Yeah, a lot of the people, I mean, for him to travel was a pain in the ass. So for not only him, but for, I guess, you have to, I don't know. I'm sure he wasn't a joy to travel with.
I'm sure too. As he's drinking 100 beers in a day on an airplane, that could not.
I remember him doing one night. He was at the Marriott after one of the shows, and he ended up taking like 2 cases of beer up to his room with him. They had to go out and, like, they went out. I don't know where they had got him from, but somewhere in the Marriott, wherever it was. So, but yeah, he's just. I don't know. I'd like to hear more of some of the shittier stories with him, I guess.
Right. Well, the big documentary I really wanted to get in and discuss, and was this past Monday night on A&E. Actually, I sat and watched it Tuesday night, and I had forgotten about it. And our friend Mr. Tony Harnell, he put a post up about it. And I was like, oh my Lord, I have to watch this. And I said to Jess, I'm like, did you see what Tony posted? And she's like, the David Cassidy documentary? I was like, yeah. She's like, we got to watch it. I was like, and we did. We sat down Tuesday night and watched it. And it's called The Last Sessions. So what last year, David decided he was going to record an album in tribute to his father, Jack Cassidy, iconic Hollywood actor, singer, who was the father of David Cassidy as well as another teen idol, Sean Cassidy. So David wanted to record this album in tribute to his father called The Songs My Father Taught Me. Or let's make sure I got that right. Songs My Father Taught Me, which is available now. And so they show the recording process of this. And also around the same time, David had come out, and it was a well-known, that David had an alcohol problem for many years. And it came out, or he had put out, that he was suffering from dementia. So, because there was some, I remember there was some footage that had surfaced at a concert, and he was like forgetting words and stuff like that. And then shortly thereafter, it came out that he was suffering from dementia. So they started filming this documentary, and he's going through. Again, you're going through the process of him early on as he's going to doctors and having testing done, and you see he's very frail looking. Problems just walking and moving and getting around. Like you would have thought watching this that he had like just maybe had back surgery. I mean, he was in so much agonizing pain and could barely walk. Like it was really hard to watch him just walking. because he looked like a cripple almost. And one of the opening doctor scenes that they show, he's talking to the doctor, and the doctor is discussing, and they ask him about alcohol. He's like, "Oh, I haven't had a drink in it's about 5 years." And a few minutes later, they're now bringing him down the hall to do this testing on his brain, and they walk him down the hall to the next office, and they're like putting all the electrodes on him and putting the cap on him to do these tests, and that person asking him questions and asking him the alcohol question again, and he's like, "Oh, it's been a few months," and I'm just like, I look at my wife, I'm like, from the walk down the hall, it went from 5 years to a few months now. So it's like, all right, well, we know here's where the problem is right here. And you can tell by his talking, too, that he was probably drinking while the filming was going on. But they show, as what they did, too, which was kind of cool, was they went back in time and mixed in the history of David Cassidy, where how he just idolized his father, and he wanted to be his father, and he wanted to become a singer, and he wanted to become an actor, and he just wanted to impress his father. Like, that was his thing he was dying to do in life, was just to get the love and recognition and support from his father, and he never got it. And they were even, like, when his father divorced his mother, David's mother, like, they didn't even tell David he was young at the time, but still, they didn't tell him for like 3-4 years till he finally said, "Are you guys divorced?" Like, he had to ask. And at that point, he probably had already gotten together with his new wife and all that. I can't remember for sure, but it was just things like that, that just took a toll on David from a very early age. And then come around, late 60s, and they start putting together the Partridge Family, and David gets the part of Keith Partridge, and they didn't even realize that, like, when they hired him for the part, that he could play guitar and sing. They realized he could sing, but they didn't realize he could play guitar until Danny Bonaducci was saying, like, they were, recording something, and he was holding the guitar, and they were like, "All right, like, take and all," and he turned the volume up and just started playing, and everybody just stopped and looked and was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And they just, that was it. Like, he's like, you can literally see, like, the dollar signs going off in everybody's head. And they took that guy, and this is why you guys have to watch this. This shows you the Hollywood machine, and this truly is where that machine started. It was David Cassidy. Like, he set the mold and broke the mold. And this guy was owned by Hollywood. Like, by the TV industry, the music industry. They show you how those Tiger Beat magazines, how they just owned. Like, he had to do so much stuff, and he didn't have a say in anything. It was just smile pretty for the camera. And they would write this stuff up, and they would try to get his input on stuff, and he would be trying to hide from them. And it was, it was so eye-opening on the workings of Hollywood and how it really works and what it can do to a person. And then they were showing how, he was literally the biggest star in America in the early 70s. And, selling out tour after tour after tour, and he went overseas and did shows over there. And at one show, they had the footage, the crowd is just out of control, and they're trying to have the crowd back up. People are being crushed, and the stage is starting to collapse, and he's begging people to stop. And a person ended up dying. They were just kind of crushed against the guardrail or had a heart attack or something. And that really took a toll on him. Yeah. And at that point, he was just I refuse to do concerts anymore. And that kind of hurt his career. And that was the downside of his career. and then he tried to come back a few years later, and it was like, you know, the one thing I learned, like, you know, like growing up, you kind of like wonder, like, oh, the band kind of went away. Like, it's not really the band that went away, or the artist or the star or whatever. It's the crowd, like especially with the teen idols and that whole genre of category. The people just grow up. Like I really got to realize that as I got older, and you would see like the stars of the '90s, like your Britney Spears or your Backstreet Boys or whoever, and you see like, oh, you know, there's these huge household names, and then where did it go? And it's like, oh, well, everybody grew up and they went on to something else, which is what happened with David. But then something like I was saying too about his father, and how really the whole thing with his father, how he just was dying for his father's love and attention, and his father died in a fire in 1976, and what you see then is where something I can relate to in a person, anybody who's lost a parent, as we all have here. You know, you just never, no matter what, I don't care what or who says what, you never get over that loss of a parent. And he never truly did. And you just see it through this movie, especially, and the part that really started making me cry is, you know, he's recording these songs, and one of the songs was called "Wish You Were Here," and I went to sleep that night singing that fucking song, "Wish You Were Here, Wish You Were." I couldn't stop singing it, and I've been listening to this fucking EP he did all week long, and I've been listening to David Cassidy now for the last 2-3 days. It was just at one point, he's talking to his band and telling his band about, you know, the memories of these songs with his dad, and at one point they played "Wish You Were Here," his father's version, and he just breaks down, and you just see him break down crying, and you know he's just saying, "I wish you were here, Dad. I wish you were here. I miss you so much," and it just tore me up. I was like, oh my Lord, like that's it right there. And I'm saying to myself, this should have been called that, "Wish You Were Here," not the Lost Sessions or the Last Session. Because that's truly what this story was. The story was a son missing his father. And, again, as they're going through this recording, and you can see he's just struggling so bad trying to record these songs and the music. And at one point, he literally just gives up. He's like, I can't do no more. I need to go home. I need to get better. And the band talks him into going to the hospital because he couldn't fly home the next day. And he ended up, like a week later, passing away in the hospital. Here he had alcohol poisoning. And his organs were failing and shutting down on him. So it's just a really, really, again, kind of like going to the Glen Campbell documentary, like I was kind of shocked that he allowed all this to be filmed and shown. I thought it was really brave and courageous for him, because at the end of the documentary, as he's talking, talking to the producer on the phone, he's telling the producer that, here I've been kind of lying and I kind of screwed up and I've been drinking all along. Supposedly his family didn't want this airing, which I kind of don't blame them. But again, it's kind of one of them awareness things to bring awareness of, what's going on in these people's lives. People think celebrities have this great, wonderful, life of sunshine and roses and unicorns, and it's really the furthest thing from the truth. So, hey, oh, dude, Nick, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was getting no sound for a while.
You were in the screening room. I just hopped over to the studio.
Screening room?
You were in the screening room.
That's so weird.
What the frick? So I just talked for like 15 minutes and you didn't hear none of it.
No, I heard most of it. It was quiet for about a minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So it was just a really. I really would love for you guys to watch this, and I'd love to hear your input on actually both of them, the David Cassidy one and the Glen Campbell one, because it's really riveting footage to see. I mean, these two iconic figures, multi-million. I mean, David Cassidy sold 30 million albums, and I'm sure Glen Campbell sold that much, if not more, in his life. And to see what happened to their lives and what had become due to health reasons and stuff like that, or depression with David, and just really eye-opening stuff. And I hope you guys do check it out.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and I'm just going to be honest with you. I ain't going to watch them sad-ass documentaries.
I know you won't.
Like, look,
I know you won't.
I'm looking in my folder right now of things that I have to watch, and I have about 105 individual episodes already. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have time to get another hobby and watch documentaries. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, I'll tell you what. Like, if you were here in Philly, like I would drag your ass to my couch and sit you in front of it and make you watch it, because I'd want to watch it with you.
No, see, that would be cool, because that would be different. You know what I mean? That's like an activity.
I know Janetti still wouldn't watch it. Like, if we were watching, I'll never let him on. If we were watching space documentaries, then he would watch it.
Really? I like to watch documentaries about animals killing each other.
Yeah, see, I don't want to watch that. So, I don't even know if Janetti's on or not. It says he's on, but we got a caller, and wonder, let's see who this is. Hey, you're live on Total Drift Radio. Who's this?
This is Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
I have known David Cassidy since 1978, and he was very kind to me and wonderful and warm, and I love him.
Now, did you meet him like as a fan at concerts, or?
I'm a singer and a dancer,
okay.
and I met him at Little Johnny Jones' opening of when he was at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Hollywood.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I was at his cast party, and he introduced me to his wife at the time, Kay, and they were getting a divorce, and I get to spend the whole summer with him, and he was just wonderful. I love the documentary, but in all honesty, I cried, but I was glad he shared that with us.
Well, I cried too, and you know, at first, like watching it, like my initial reaction was like, I was kind of shocked that he shared it, but then, like after a while, like I got it, like it needed to be shared.
I appreciate his honesty, but at the same time, I'm angry at the family. I've already spoke to Danny Bonaducci, and he agrees. He did a wonderful job in the documentary, but the family is furious because it got aired. And
yeah,
I don't understand their position. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Now, was the relationship with the family good with David? I thought maybe at some point there was not a good relationship, or
they practically turned their back on him and went and did their own thing. I seriously, because I've known him for so long and I knew what Jack was like, I seriously think they were trying to not allow the public to know how bizarre Jack was.
Right.
Jack had serious illness. He was bipolar, and back then nobody knew what that was. And you know how arrogant Jack was. He would have never admitted he was anything but perfect.
Well, and they were like in the documentary. They didn't show the actual clip, but they played the audio clip of when I forget which show it was where Jack was hosting and David was the guest, and he was trying to put David down, and I was cringing. I was like, oh my Lord, like I couldn't imagine a father doing this. You know,
my father was just like his father. And I understand completely about him needing that validation so bad. And it's frustrating to see him suffer like that. It really is. Because he was a very, very generous person, very loving, kind man.
Yeah, did you see like a lot of the alcoholic side of David as you knew him? Like,
he wasn't drinking back then when I knew him.
Wow, okay.
He didn't start drinking until he got with Sue. And that's what I don't understand, because him and Kay, they were sober as can be that night. There was Michael, be quiet, I'm on the phone. They were sober that night. He wasn't drinking at all. I know that he wasn't even doing drugs back then. You should have seen him the night. One of the nights I went there, because I saw him like 25 times at Little Johnny Jones, and he kept inviting me to come back and spend time with him, and I did. I got to go backstage and what have you, and I even got to meet Sam, his best friend, which was adorable. And but like I said, he never was drunk the whole time I saw him. He was sober the whole summer. He was happy. He was dating, since he was going through a divorce with Kay, he was seeing a girl from the show called Desire. And then, the whole time I knew him in that summer, he asked me if I wouldn't mind helping him get rid of a stalker he had.
Oh boy.
And I said I wouldn't mind, because she was hiding in the bushes at his house. And she would come out, and this is the real reason why Kay and David got divorced, because of this girl's interference. She kept interfering them all the time. They were never allowed in any privacy, what have you. And
that's the side of Hollywood that people don't expect to happen, and does.
Yeah, and I know a lot of things because of what he told me, but he told me, he said, please don't tell anybody the private things that you know that we've shared. And I said, you've got my word, and I haven't. And I won't. But it just breaks my heart when people think they know him when they don't, based on this character of Keith Partridge. That wasn't him. You know, it was just a role he played, and in real life he was playing with Alice Cooper and all kinds of Led Zeppelin, and he was good at it. But everybody kept wanting to put him in a little cage and be, you know, a little Barbie doll, so to speak, you know?
That was the one thing too. I mean, with the documentary, it was so many of his longtime friends were in it. And Alice Cooper was in it, and he was one of the people telling, you know, classic stories of him and David and back in their, you know, the old days. And he was even saying that as well, like you just said, like he.
Oh yeah, Alice Cooper's a sweetheart. So, but yeah, it makes me mad when the tabloids sit there and try to make things out of things. You know what I mean? And then when David got sick, they had a field day on him.
Right.
And there was no reason for that. There was absolutely no reason. I mean, and then the way the family acted, I'm outraged. I really am.
I think, you know, when the whole thing came out, about the dementia, where he came out and he was saying he had dementia. You know,
Yes.
At first, you know I was like, oh, geez, okay, you know, that kind of explains a lot. And then when it came out that he had lied about it, I was like, oof. But then after watching this, it kind of like, I'm not going to say like justifies him lying about it, but it really puts it in a light where it explains it a lot better than just hearing the words.
Well, I think what really happened, and this is just me from knowing him all these years, I think that the fear of getting dementia drove him into being an alcoholic. I think he was so afraid of getting it that he was drinking to forget it might happen to him. But that's just my opinion. What do you think?
Honestly, I like I was saying earlier on, I really think the whole thing with his father was such a huge thing. Maybe because I relate to it, because I lost my father very young, and it's something I still to this day, like I go to therapy every week, and still every week one of the big topics of conversation is my father, and you know it's one of them things where, and David kept saying he just wanted that love and approval from his father, and he can never get it.
Yeah, I mean, even though his father was crappy to him, he just wanted him to say he was okay. And what's really cool, and I don't know if you're familiar with Ross Snowden. Do you know Ross Snowden?
No.
Ross Snowden is a friend of his. The night the first night I met him, Ross Snowden was sitting next to me in the theater, and he told me, he said, go meet him. He'd love to meet you. I said, okay. So I went back there into the cast party and met him. But I told one of his best friends, which is Ross Snowden, I said, while the show was on, I saw Jack Cassidy's ghost appear in air right above the stage. And I said, he looked at me and he said, that's my son. I'm proud of him. And Ross Snowden said, oh, my God. He said, that would mean a lot for you to tell David. Well, we got talking about business because I was going to work with him on his next album. I never got to mention it, but Ross mentioned it to him. And there is a video online that he authorized about his life. And at the end of the video, it shows Jack Cassidy appearing to him and saying, that's my boy. I'm proud of you. And it puts chills up my spine because that means Ross told him.
Wow.
And I'm so glad he knew before he died. Because I never had a chance to tell him that, you know?
Wow. That's an amazing story.
Yeah. And he was so sweet. He asked me, he says, do you want to work on my next album? But what really happened, why I couldn't, was because I had my first son was born handicapped, and I had to quit all my jobs, you know, being a nurse and a doctor. I mean, not a doctor, a nurse and a dancer, excuse me. I had to get out of the business and take care of my handicapped boy or put him in an institution. And I've been doing that for 31 years. I've been taking care of my son, who is still with us. He has cerebral palsy.
Okay.
But I will never forget how kind and wonderful and encouraging David was. It was just so nice. The whole summer I got to spend with him. And like I said, he told me, he said, now you know a lot of personal stuff about me. And he said, most people would go to the tabloids and sell it. He said, please don't. And I said, well, you have my word, and I didn't.
I'm glad you didn't. Thank you for being a stand-up person and a stand-up fan. That's awesome.
I won't. You know, I will never, ever let anything, you know, said bad about him, you know, because, you know, we're all human, and people forget, even though you're a celebrity and you're in the light, stop idolizing these people. He hated it. When he did something, he asked me, when he was on each show he did, he goes, how'd I do? Well, some of the shows he screwed up on, and I told him. I said, what happened? He said, you noticed that? I said, yeah, it was bad. He said, I had a stomachache. I was throwing up in buckets on the side of the stage, and Sam was taking the buckets to me. And I said, oh, my God, I had no idea. He said, don't apologize. He said, I love your honesty. And I was moved by that, you know?
Yeah.
But I just had to call you. I'm calling from California.
Well,
I just had to tell you that I appreciate what you said about him on Facebook. And
thank you.
I love him tremendously, and I always will, and I will not stand for people to put him down.
Well, thank you for your support, and thank you for your kind words, and thank you for supporting David and not sharing those stories are yours to take with you.
Oh, definitely, because I've had fans chasing me on Facebook. How do you know this? What do you do? You know, they would absolutely freak if they knew that that I've actually kissed him before. I've actually put my fingers through his hair. He's done the same to me. We've actually danced together. They would actually freak, but that's not their business.
I think it's their business now because I think they're going to know.
Wait, but they don't know my name on Facebook, so they can't bother me. So it's rather amusing, don't you think?
Touché.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being there for him. I will love him forever, and he will always be cherished and special to my heart. Keep up the good work you're doing for him.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. There's a nice little story about David Cassidy.
Look, do you want to know everything that I know about David Cassidy? I can tell you in less than 5 minutes. In less than 2 minutes, okay?
I was going to say 5 seconds.
1, Katie Cassidy. Okay?
Okay.
2, back in, 2009, Sean Cassidy produced a TV show that starred Patrick and David, and it was about, the one brother was, a retired rock star, but David, the older brother or whatever, was still, out there rocking, but then he found out he had a teenage daughter, so he takes her to the brother's house so they can all, live together. I imagine it was kind of mirroring real life a little bit, but it was really funny. That's it. That's all I know.
You know the Partridge Family.
I'm not talking bad about it. I know of the Partridge Family. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of the Partridge Family.
Wow.
I was more of a Gilligan's Island type of kid.
See, I was more of a Partridge Family kid. More of a Brady Bunch Partridge Family kid.
That does not surprise me at all. But hey, man, you have a picture with Katie, right?
I do. That's right. I do.
That's 1 degree of separation between you and David.
And honestly, the whole, I said it when I wrote the review of the show, and I started out with saying I knew. I don't know if I knew Sean Cassidy first or knew David as Keith Partridge, but didn't realize he was a quote unquote Cassidy, because
right.
Sean Cassidy is the one that really just he was the one. When the Do Run came out in 1976, that was it. Game time was over for Bay. That was. I wanted to be Sean Cassidy. I wanted a guitar. I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to sing, and I wanted to be Sean Cassidy. And then, I don't know if it was around the same time or later, whenever, because at that point, the Partridge Family was in syndication, so I would see it in syndication, and I would watch it, but I didn't realize, that they were brothers or stepbrothers, however it was. Until later, and it was oh my God, okay. And then it was David Cassidy, I knew he was this big. I would see him on the covers of the magazines, and I was reading and getting when I would go to the supermarket with my mom. It was like, all right, Tiger Beat, Teen Beat, 16. Like I was getting all these freaking magazines, and I used to have in my basement. I mean, stacks and stacks from the 70s on up of these magazines, and I would just sit in my basement. I would sit in my basement in a box, in a cardboard box, like a recliner, like you know what I mean, like I was reclining out, just reading these magazines, wanting to be these people, and it was all because of Sean Cassidy. Sean Cassidy like started it all.
All right then.
There you go.